This is Innovledia.
Hello and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create lights in Maya and render the scene in Arnold Renderer. Now that you know how to model objects in Maya, it is time to take a look at how to add lights in your scene and render the output that looks close to something real. Now, before I create a new light, I would like to mention that there are at least two render engines in Maya. One is the Maya's own default renderer and another is the Arnold renderer. In this course, we'll mainly be focusing on the Arnold renderer, which has been used in big Hollywood movies like Pacific Rim, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and many others. I have been using this renderer for almost 9 years. I have also used Pixar's RenderMan, which has been used in rendering almost every animated movie produced by Disney and Pixar Animation Studios. Arnold Renderer is an industry standard render engine that produces a very realistic output, close to what we see in a real-life environment. It is being used by Industrial Light & Magic, which is the biggest visual effects company in the world. So, this is something that should definitely grab your interest in learning it and making the best of what is possible for you. Okay, so coming back to Maya, there are two places from where you can create lights in your scene. One is by going to the Create menu, then under Lights, you can find all the default lights of Maya, out of which the ambient light and the volume light is not supported in Arnold Renderer. Another is by going to the Arnold menu, then under Lights, you can find all the lights that are specific to Arnold Renderer and have more features than the default lights of Maya. In this course, I am going to show you one default light of Maya and one Arnold specific light, and two more Arnold lights in an upcoming lesson. Alright? So first, I am going to create a new light by going to Create menu, Lights, and I am selecting the spotlight from here. This will create a new spotlight at the center of the scene. We can move this to any location using the Move tool, and also rotate it to change its direction. I am going to put some exact values here rather than keeping them in decimals. Alright? So, in real, a spotlight is a light with a parabolic reflector, and hence it is conical in shape. It is a light with a specific direction. Now, to see a rendered preview of the lighting, you can go to Arnold menu and open the Arnold RenderView. Here is the Start and Stop button to start and stop the live preview. Let me close this for now. There is yet another way to see a live preview of your scene, and that is by going to View Panel's Renderer menu and selecting Arnold from here. A little floating window will pop up using which you can start and stop the preview as needed. And you will see the preview right within the viewport. You don't have to open any separate window for this. Alright? Now, you might have observed one thing here, that there is hardly any light that we can see in the preview. So, what I need to do is increase the intensity of the light unless it becomes visible. You can always type in a value that is greater than what is possible with this slider. You can also choose the color of light by clicking on this box, like yellow or green, but I'm going to keep it white for now. Coming below, we have this drop down for changing the decay rate for the light from no decay to quadratic. In real, lights decay over distance at this rate. Alright? The cone angle sets how wide or narrow the cone will be, and hence the light will be spread over a larger area once I increase this value for the cone angle. Now, as you can see, that currently we can see the edge of the light where it ends. The penumbra angle is used to create a fade out effect for this hard edge and make it softer. If I increase this, it will create the effect after the edge. And if I decrease this, it will create the same effect before the edge. The drop-off value is something that controls the rate at which light intensity decreases from center to the edge of the spotlight. With this, you can create a light with a very smooth fading effect from the center to the edge. Now, if you scroll down, we are going to find here another section with the name Arnold. You have to click on this little icon to expand this section. The settings here generally override the above settings for the default lights of Maya. Alright? So, here is a checkbox for using color temperature for light. And if I check this, it will override the color attribute of light. Which means, if I set the color of the light to green, and then come back here and check this box, it will disable the color attribute and use the color temperature instead. This scale is based on Kelvin scale, with value of 6500 producing white light, and value greater than that will produce cooler colors, while value less than 6500 will produce warmer colors of light. Alright, I'm going to keep it to 6500 so that we can have a white light for now. Coming below, we have this exposure value, which is an f-stop value that multiplies the intensity of light by 2 to the power of the f-stop. So if I use value of 9 for exposure, the value of 1 for intensity, it will be same as intensity of value 512 and exposure of value 0. We generally use the exposure value more often than the intensity, and hence leave this intensity value to 1 and change this exposure value to whatever we need. Like for now, it looks better with a value of 10. Samples is used to improve the quality of the shadows by removing noise from those areas. I would recommend not to increase this above the value of 4, which is sufficient in most cases. Otherwise, it will simply increase the render time or the processing time for the output. Alright? Radius is used to increase the size of the light source, resulting in softer shadows instead of hard shadows. This creates a very smooth lighting like a diffused light. Normalize is used to keep the amount of emitted light to constant as we increase its radius. Otherwise, if we uncheck this, the amount of light will increase as we increase its radius, and vice versa. In this case, the radius controls the amount of emitted light. But with Normalize on, we can have sharp shadows without affecting the amount of emitted light no matter what its radius is. Alright? Now, to observe the effect of roundness, we have to first set the penumbra angle and drop-off values to 0. Okay, so with roundness set to 1, we are going to have our light in a circular pattern. Whereas, if we bring this value all the way up to 0, it will create more of a rectangular pattern. Unchecking the Cast Shadows option will disable the shadows for the objects created by this spotlight. This produces a very unrealistic and inaccurate result as we can see here. But this is useful when we have more than one lights in a scene, and we want the shadows to be cast in only one direction and not in all the directions. Alright? The shadow density controls the value or darkness of the shadows, in case if we want to lessen the strength of the shadows created by a particular light in our scene. The aspect ratio is the ratio of the width of the cone to its height. Value of 1 means the width of the cone is equal to its height. By decreasing this value, we make that proportion unequal, and hence it creates this sort of light, like coming from some narrow opening on the wall or door or something. The lens radius is used to coincide the position of the light with the vertex of its cone, making the light appear to be coming from a point. Whereas, on increasing its value all the way up to 1, the light will appear as a truncated cone. We can observe this only under volumetric lighting setup, where we have mist or smoke within the environment. Alright? Unchecking this box will disable the volumetric shadows that form within the air due to the presence of these objects. And lastly, the volume samples is used to improve the quality of the volumetric shadows by removing noise from those areas. I would again recommend not to increase this value above 4 unless it is necessary. Alright? So this was all about the spotlight of Maya. Now let us move on to creating an Arnold specific light. The light that I am going to create is called a mesh light. And to create it, first I need to select an object which I would like to turn into a light. Then go to Arnold menu, within lights, select the mesh light option. This will turn the object into a light source. And here within the attribute editor, you can change its settings. I'm not going to explain the common attributes again. You can increase the exposure value to make it appear more prominent and set the color to something like green. There is a checkbox here with an option to make the mesh light visible to the camera. So we should definitely check this if we want to create a light that can be seen like an object. Below that, we have samples to control the quality of shadows and reduce the noise. We can change the color of the shadows created by the mesh light, especially if it itself is emitting a different color light. The shadows can be of a different color as well than the usual black. You can change this for giving an artistic feel to your scene. Otherwise, change it only when you have acquired sufficient knowledge in lighting. Alright? So this was all about using an Arnold Mesh Light in Maya. In case you are thinking, how did I create this volumetric effect like this smoky environment? It is simple. You just have to go to Render Settings, which can be accessed either by going to Windows menu, then Rendering Editors, and click on Render Settings. Or you can simply click on this icon on the status line to open the same settings. Here, you have to go to Arnold Renderer tab and scroll below to find this environment section. Then, you have to click on this toggle button to expand this section. Here, you have to click on this icon for the atmosphere option and then select Create AI Atmosphere Volume. Once done, you can close this window and within the attribute editor, you just have to set the density of the volume to 0.01. That's it. Alright? You can definitely take an advanced course in lighting to learn more in depth about the different types of lights. This is indeed a broad topic and cannot be covered up in 1 or 2 chapters. On the other hand, sometime later, if I decide to make a course on lighting, I'll notify you as soon as I upload the course. Alright? So, this is how we can create lights in Maya and render the scene in Arnold Renderer. See you in the next video.